Well, it's Sam, it's like anything else. Most of the people want to just have a nice life, a nice family, a couple of beers now and then, and a roof over your head.
Yeah.
Most of the people. It's the other ones that,
Crazy people. Yeah.
well, this at least give a chance for that group to rise up above these idiots.
There's always a new generation. The problem is, I think some of the new generation. they
Yeah,
get
but it-
inundated. with
they may-
feedback and all this other stuff.
They may not want to have,
Hope so.
I think I usually.
they might want to have prosperity.
Yeah,
And that's one of the things,
slower after, you know.
you can bring in that prosperity attitude. You know, I was looking at it. There's devastation and a most beautiful beach you ever saw. You go, wasn't anybody taking advantage of that thing? That's a paradise thing. Make them the 51st state. Forget about Canada.
I'm convinced they're Canadians, but
Yeah, I
I
think,
don't think they're too happy.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
All right, the time is 7 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Let's see the flag of the United States of America. The republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, we have the roll call, please.
Mayor Plesky,
Here.
trustee Domke,
Present.
trustee Trejo.
Here.
Trustee Delapenna.
Here.
Trustee Lanisa. Here. Trustee Pierkowski.
Here.
Trustee Forsythe. Here.
And we have a quorum. We'll continue on a presentation of the prepared agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Seeing none, that motion carries. We'll continue on to Village Board public comment. Anyone wishing to provide a comment on a topic or an agenda item may address the Village Board in person during the public comment and public hearing segments of the Village Board agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The Village Board also adopted the Illinois Municipal League Civility Pledge, which states, "In the interest of civility, I pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community, and understanding that we each may have different ideas for achieving that objective." Is there any member of the public that wish to address the board at this time? Yep, sir, if you just, Terry, why don't you come up first if you, all right, sir, you're up in the back. Yep, please come to the podium and just adjust the microphone so we can make sure you and everyone at home can hear you, and just state your name for the record when you're ready.
My name's Gary Kuba. I've lived in Roselle for almost 50 years, on Heritage Drive for probably 41 years. And I think it's a known problem that the police in the village and the board knows that there is a speeding problem on Heritage Drive. And being that we have a dead-end street on the east end of Heritage and a through street on the other side of Valley, the problem seems to be from the east side of Valley. When people come around the corner to that 3-block radius, I'll sit on my front porch and people are going 40, 50 miles an hour. I know that the police put up one of those digital signs, recording, the radar. That does absolutely no good. So I wanted to bring up, I know speed bumps are highly regulated and they're in specific situations and they are fairly aggressive, but there's something that I found out after doing some research, and a lot of villages have them in situations where Heritage is on. It's called a speed hump. And a speed hump is less aggressive than a speed bump. So if somebody's going 40 miles an hour, that speed hump being less aggressive, it will slow them down to the speed limit. And I was just wondering if that's something that the village would or could consider, if I need to go door to door and get signatures to see if people are willing to, to have that installed on Heritage, or what's the input that I have from you folks on that topic?
So even speed humps, and if needed, I can have our public works director kind of explain that. Those create an issue for our snow plows for snow removal, even though they are less extreme than a speed bump. Like you said, that does help with some things like emergency response vehicles and other stuff like that. It still makes it really difficult for us to plow and keep the streets clean. The one thing I will say about the speed signs is that's really helpful from a data collection perspective, because even though over time people realize it and they do change their behavior, we do get an idea about what hours of the of the day, we have more of that speeding, which helps us with patrol detailing. I know sometimes what becomes an issue, not on Heritage specifically, but in your neighborhood, there are pockets where it is unincorporated in which we don't have policing jurisdiction. There's a lot of fancy language we can go through about when we can and can't, but it does create some challenges. But I know one thing that we a neighboring community has done. There's some interesting stuff that I don't want to make promises that we haven't discussed yet as a board and whatnot. I mean, it'd be budget implications, but there's some other ways that we can kind of look at utilizing that technology to help us inform people's behaviors a little bit more. So I don't want to leave vagaries out there, but
Because those radar signs record license plate numbers and.
not the models that we have, but there's some other communities that have done some stuff with that. There isn't the ability to enforce it with that, but they have been able to use that as a means to notify, especially I think, given where you're at. A lot of those are probably Lake Park West kids, maybe cutting through and whatnot. And I know there's a certain effect to having a police officer show up at your door to tell you your kid's been speeding that may or may not maybe create some parenting moments. We'll leave it at that. So stuff that's very early. I can't make any promises on that end, but there's other opportunities for us to kind of deploy things. But I think our deputy chief is in the back. We'll look at the data we've collected, but I know they do an asserted effort to rotate those around to help inform patrol routes and stuff like that. And we can get you in touch with your district's kind of sergeant for that.
The other topic I wanted to bring up, which is a problem among all the towns surrounding us, is e-bikes. And I know you guys have put up signs for class 1, class 2, class 3. And the problem is those are not the problem, 1, 2, and 3. It's class 4 e-bikes that you can push a button and go from 0 to 40 miles an hour in 5 seconds. Those are the types of bikes that are running around our neighborhood going over grass. And these types of bikes have to be 16 years old. I mean, so it should be pretty easy to enforce when you have 9, 10-year-old kids flying around on cloths going over hills on 2,000-watt motors. I mean, I would think that there would be, a way to control that, but just, go to the parents and give them a ticket.
Yeah.
'Cause those are not, and on your signs that you have, you don't mention anything about class 4. And class 4 is the problem. 1, 2, and 3 is not a problem.
So class 4 doesn't exist, but what you're describing essentially is like a motorcycle essentially, or an
But that's,
e-motorcycle. So.
those are the kids that are
And
driving.
those are all forbidden. I will say, even just anecdotally, this past weekend, I had my daughter at the park and one of our police vehicles was driving through the park on one of the asphalt paths, deterring some e-bikers. I'll let Deputy Chief Gates just kind of give a brief overview if he can about some of the enforcement that we've been able to do with e-bikes, if that's okay. And if you don't mind using the microphone next to you.
Okay, that's all I got. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, the mayor and the board of trustees authorized us to buy 2 e-bikes, so we've had guys out there doing enforcement on those. It's a catch-22 for us. It's rather difficult, as a lot of these, you see how they ride. A lot of the people on e-bikes flee from us. So we enforce what we can. When they pull over, we write tickets, we speak to parents, we inform and educate parents on what the kids can and cannot do. But the ones that run from us or flee from us, it's difficult.
And I will say, what we have done, to your point, I think a lot of it is we can try to, if we can get the kids, that's important, but it's important to have a responsibility for the parents. And we actually adopted a parental responsibility ordinance, so they get ticketed. And we also give the police the ability, if it became necessary, to impound the bikes, which then also forces the family to come into the police station, have a conversation with us. So it's definitely a concern. And I think there's a lot that we need to do to help with enforcement, but at least we've given our police the tools to do it. And I think we have to let policing kind of take its course, which is difficult when we're seeing it happen.
Very much of a help. And as we encounter kids and speak to kids, there's notes entered into our systems. So if they do flee from another officer that's not aware of them, it's more readily available to try and identify them. But yeah, if you know who it is or where they're from, call 911 and give that information.
You just want to leave it up here, that's fine. Thank you. Terry? There you go.
Hey, Brian, go Bears.
Terry, you can approach the podium now.
Well, I want to really extend appreciation to Brian and the village board
for making the accommodation that we're about to try with the audio system. I really appreciate it. Some people would say that's a really trivial little matter, but believe me, to those who it will help or will potentially help, it matters a lot. So Brian, thank you very, very much. And thank you to the board for allowing that to occur.
My name is Terry Erickson. I am a resident of Roselle. While there should never have been a time that people with disabilities were treated differently than others, the ADA passed in 1990 aimed to help solve accessibility fairness. 33 years later, we finally have some good news. Local Irving Park Road intersections finally have useful pedestrian walk buttons, which allow us to specify the desired direction of travel. The ones at Maple and Irving will help commuters more easily access the metro station. Also, Irving Park has been widened through Medina with a paved shoulder for pedestrians and bikers. Medina Road is getting a sidewalk between Crest and I-390, hopefully with pedestrian walk controls at I-390 also. These improvements will now allow pedestrians to use the same routes as vehicles, providing a fair and safer experience for everybody, the way it should have always been. Also, the village is considering no train horn in the downtown area. Since there are no warning signals at the Roselle Metro Station platform crossings, installing these must be part of that planning. Yet even today, we still have many situations to constantly deal with. Sidewalks blocked by parked vehicles, vehicles stopping on crosswalks instead of behind stop lines, tree bush overlapping sidewalks, and sidewalk areas blocked by signs or other various obstacles. No useful long-term correction or enforcement is in place, as these are ongoing situations which we continually have to deal with. Many pedestrians, bicyclists, e-bikers, scooters, and motorists are constantly disregarding traffic laws without the least concern of citations or just paying a small fine and repeating their activity. Commonly, these include speeding and failure to yield to pedestrians at crosswalks, including along Maple. This will not stop until useful enforcement is done and fines are significant enough to make people think before they act. Although I agree that education is a key part of the understanding and obeying the laws, I also realize that people knowingly violate the laws routinely. Signs, traffic lights, and roadway painted indicators exist, but do not seem to matter to many people anymore. Respect for others seems to be a forgotten concept. We must all work together to restore the respect and safety of others in our daily decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Is there anyone else present that wishes to address the board at this time? The record show none. We'll continue on to officials and staff reports. Under mine, I just want to thank everyone for a number of events that have occurred over the last couple of weeks. So primarily the Park District and our Public Works, our Fire Department and our Police Department for their help with the Founders Fest that happened the first week of October. So that went very well. And also, I think, and I don't want to speak prematurely, but it seemed like it was a kind of a quiet homecoming weekend this year in Roselle. So that's always a nice, pleasant thing, especially when you have a bunch of high schoolers out and about. So that's a pleasant thing to see kind of happen very well. Besides that, under the agenda, I do have one thing I wanted to ask the board for direction on, increasing the number of Class F liquor licenses from 13 to 14 to accommodate the opening of My Way Bistro. That's opening up in the former Goat and Vine location off of Irving Park Road. So want to just get the board's perspective on that license change.
Go with it.
Yes.
Got unanimous consent on that one. We'll get that on an agenda for approval coming up then. Thank you so much. Any village trustees have a report tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to village clerk. Village attorney. Village administrator. We'll continue on to unfinished business. First, we have the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, or non-controversial in nature, and will be enacted in one motion. There'll be no discussion of these items unless removed from the consent agenda. Are there any items removed from the consent agenda tonight? The record show none. Tonight, we have a presentation approval of the village board minutes of September 22nd, 2005. Pass an ordinance to declare surplus certain personal property of the village of Roselle. Adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the payment to Morton Salt Incorporated for the purchase of road salt in the amount not to exceed $110,058. And adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 1 for the agreement between the village of Roselle and Sizek Tree Services for the additional work in the amount of $26,850. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Can we please have the roll?
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Delapena.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe. Aye.
Trustee Lanisa? Aye.
Trustee Pierakowski.
Aye. That motion carries. We'll continue on to development and engineering services. Trustee Forsythe.
Thank you, Mayor Pulaski. I would like to move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 2 for the Plum Grove Road Bridge Rehabilitation Project between the Village of Roselle and Roche Infrastructure for additional work in the amount of $18,907.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, could we have the roll, please?
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Delapena.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Pierakowski.
Aye. And that motion carries.
And I would like to move to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 1 for the 2025 sidewalk and curb replacement program between the Village of Roselle and Globe Construction, Inc. for additional work in the amount of $2,302.05.
Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have the roll, please?
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Pierakowski.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Delapena.
Aye.
And that motion carries.
That is all for me.
Thank you so much. We have nothing under administration tonight. Fire, Trustee Domke.
Mr. Mayor, we would like to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental agreement pertaining to the Village of Roselle's participation as a member of the Emergency Telephone Systems Board, ETSB, and DuPage Public Safety Communications, DUCOM.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, could we have the roll, please?
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Delapena.
Aye.
Forsythe.
Aye.
Pierakowski.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Have no more, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have nothing under police tonight, but Public Works. Trustee Delapena.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a contract by and between the Village of Roselle and Brightview, Inc., the lowest responsible bidder.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, could we have the roll, please?
Trustee Delapena.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Pierakowski.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. We'll carry on to finance. Trustee Lanisa.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for October 13th, 2025 in the amount of $2,224,681.99.
Second.
Any discussion on the bills list? Seeing none, could we have the roll?
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Pierakowski.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Delapena.
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll continue on to new business. We'll first discuss amending Chapter 10, Appendix 5 of the Traffic Code to modify current parking restrictions on Rodenberg Road between Waterbury Lane and Darbury Lane. So we'll have Deputy Chief of Police, Mr. Gates, with us. My apologies again for earlier. Old habits die hard, so.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Board of Trustees. During the school year, the Roselle Police Department received numerous complaints regarding parking at Waterbury School from students and from parents and school staff. This has been an ongoing issue since at least 2019, with various attempts to make modifications to resolve the problem. Some of the problems include vehicle blocking the driveway that buses exit from Waterbury School onto Rodenberg Road, congestion due to the vehicles parking on both sides of the street. It's difficult for the parents to see the children crossing the streets in between cars, and emerging from in between the vehicles, as well as a emergency vehicle being virtually impossible to pass down the middle of the roadway during pickup and drop off. Police department worked with DES and Waterbury staff to investigate the matter. According to the IDOT Bureau of Local Roads and Streets Manual, a road like Rodenberg should be at least 10 feet wide in each direction with an 8-foot parking lane if parking were to be accommodated on both sides of the street, making the road 36 feet wide. Rodenberg Road is approximately 30 feet wide, so parking cannot be accommodated on both sides of the roadway. After consulting with staff from Waterbury School, it's staff's recommendation that the parking restrictions on Rodenberg Road between Waterbury Lane and Darby Lane be modified to improve traffic flow through the area at all times of the day. This would include no parking on the east side of Waterbury Lane between Darby and, Rodenberg Road between Waterbury and Darby, along with no parking, standing, stopping during school hours in between 290 and 330 Rodenberg, and just standard overnight parking restrictions north of 290 Rodenberg to Darby Lane and south of 330 Rodenberg Road to Waterbury Lane. Additionally, to improve the safety of parents and students crossing the roadway to get to the school, the village will be installing a crosswalk and necessary ADA ramps to cross 310 South Rodenberg Road to the island between the entrance and exit of Waterbury School. If these ordinance changes are adopted by the village board, staff will work with Waterbury School as well as the Impacted Homeowners Association to educate them on the changes in parking restrictions. Additionally, the installation of signage will be coordinated with the Public Works Department. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions from the board on this item?
Makes sense to me.
It's well thought out, and you're gonna hang around and educate first before you citation people.
Absolutely.
Do we know what the timeline for getting these things implemented for would be?
The crosswalk is currently installed, or the sidewalk connection pieces are currently installed. The crosswalk striping should be occurring within the next month.
Okay.
And then Public Works will follow behind with the signage. We're already started that coordination just in case.
Great. Thank you. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, and it's a
Aside
good,
from these hours, then normal parking is allowed afterwards, right? Because there's a lot of residents that probably park on the street a little bit, right?
Not on the east side, on the Waterbury School.
West side.
The west side, correct, except for the standard overnight parking restrictions.
great. I think you got consensus from everyone on the board, so thank you so much for putting this together. I know a lot of work went into it, and I know great collaboration with the school district as well on this, so I appreciate the efforts on it.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have direction on the purchasing of a replacement VACCON vacuum and jetting equipment. So we'll have our Public Works Director, Karen Young, presenting.
All right, good evening. As the mayor mentioned, I'm here tonight seeking direction on purchasing a replacement of the village's 2017 Vector unit or VACCON unit. Just for reference, this is a critical piece of equipment for emergency and daily operations throughout the department. We use it to jet and hydro excavate our underground utilities for blockages and repairs. This equipment was originally scheduled to be replaced as part of a 12-year replacement program. And through our conversations with several other communities, they're actually replacing their units every 8 to 10 years due to the heavy usage of them and wear and tear. As mentioned, the current unit was proposed to be replaced. It would have been in 2029 at an estimated cost of $833,000. And based on the proposal that we're discussing tonight, it is fully funded currently. Staff is recommending the replacement at this time for several factors due to the frequent and costly repairs that we're currently having, declining reliability, our increased usage from our staff, as well as the critical role this equipment plays in our operations. For reference, some of the things that we took into consideration with this recommendation is this equipment has been had a total of around $63,000 worth of repairs in the last several of years. We also have had it out of service since May, approximately 6 weeks. Of that, during one period of time, 3 weeks straight. We've had some very kind and gracious community neighbors and partners who have allowed us to utilize their equipment, but only on an emergency basis, which is not sustainable for us or those communities to continue our day-to-day operations. We did look at rental units as well, but found that to be quite costly at the cost of $4,700 a week or $14,000 per month. In addition, there's no guarantee when we do need those rental units that they are available. One of the times that we did look into it, they were not available. So based on the frequency that the unit has been down, we feel like that'd be throwing good money at bad at this point. We did complete an extensive, comprehensive evaluation of 3 different vendors to determine the best replacement options for our current needs. The review process went beyond the typical just a vendor coming in and them showing us how the equipment worked. Each of the vendors allowed us to utilize the equipment for 1 day, where we utilized it for an upcoming water main replacement project where we had 69 water services that needed to be hydro excavated. So our criteria included several things: the functionality of the equipment, the adaptability going between vac operations and hydro excavating operations, and then the ease of the operations for both our experienced operators and our new staff, as well as safety features. Your packet included a table summarizing the vendors' trade-in value and overall cost, but a few things that it did not include I wanted to highlight today. So kind of going from our lowest ranking to our highest ranking, the lowest ranking was the VACCON unit, which is what our current unit is. Upon demo of that unit, we found that many of the features that we're currently struggling with still remain as their current design. The second one was Brown equipment. It was the second overall lowest cost based on trade-in value. 2 concerns that our staff had with that were the safety measures and the blower type. From a safety measures standpoint, there were less safety measures in place that would mitigate future damage during operation. And the second most important is the blower type. There's 2 different types of blowers that you can have: positive displacement and fan. They only have positive displacement. And as part of that, it's more sensitive to debris that gets in there and small debris that gets in there that can create significant maintenance requirements, and then also a lot more time for our staff to be out during the middle of the night cleaning it out to ensure that debris is not left in there. And then overall, it has a higher maintenance and repair costs. The top 2 ranking units were from Vactor. The positives that we heard from our staff on that was the safety measures was first and foremost. They have an increased number of safety measures that won't allow the operator to overpressurize the system, mitigating significant and costly repairs. Second is the blower type. They have both a fan and a positive displacement. The ones that we priced out were fan. And then the fan on this is generally simpler and less costly to maintain over the life of the vehicle. Another big positive is they have an onboard diagnostic system. This is both for the operators in the field and for our mechanics in the shop. So sometimes things go down when the crews are out overnight in the field. They can look at that diagnostic system and determine if it's something they can repair out in the field or take care of in the field, or if they need to call a mechanic in to get it back in the shop. And then once it gets into the shop, it's easier for our mechanics to diagnose and get back on the road. Another option on that is a decant system. We quite frequently, and our staff is currently out as we speak on a water main break, utilize it during emergency water main break situations to work around existing utilities and to try to increase the speed in which we're getting jobs done to get customers back in service. And in those scenarios, you're not only sucking up dirt and debris, but the majority of what you're picking up is water. And it fills up the tanks on the back of those trucks very quickly, which requires our staff to leave the site and go dump that spoil material and get back. And by the time they get back, sometimes the increased water, they're just kind of like starting over again. This system has a decant system in which they can decant that water on site, leave the spoil material in there, and continue to operate. So it's an efficiency in getting our customers back in service quicker. Has greater technology. And technology can be good and bad. And the one thing that our staff was very clear on, they didn't want technology that was overcomplicated. Because especially if you have a newer operator or you're out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's tough to have something that's very complicated They found the technology on this system to be a good balance of the technology that they need, but also someone who is not as fluent on the use of the equipment could easily operate it. Both of these options that are available come with both the Cummins engine and an Allison transmission, which is something that we currently maintain with our fleet staff. There were 2 different chassis based on that. I know that's one thing that was called out in your packet. We've got 3 certified mechanics that are highly qualified in evaluating both of those options and said they were both suitable for our needs. The biggest thing is the overall cost. They are an expensive piece of equipment. We want to make sure that we're buying something that is going to last us for the duration to our next replacement program, but also get us through the needs of where we are today with a piece of equipment that is consistently breaking down, and we're unsure if we continue to use it, if it'll devalue our trade-in value as well. So with that, the cost is slightly different than what was in your packet. We realized after the packets were sent out, there was one item that wasn't included on there. So both prices for Vactor are increasing by about $6,500. And staff is recommending going with the unit, which is the Western Star, that is slightly higher than the other one, specifically because it's currently available. The second unit, which is the Freightliner, is not available until quarter 1. It could be April by the time that unit's available. So we're currently recommending the Western Star by Vactor in the amount of $605,682. I know that's a lot of information. Any questions I can answer?
And before I open up to the board, I hate to even start at the very beginning because it was a very thorough presentation, but what does this machine do for us? Like, can you
Absolutely.
walk us through some of like typical things and like what the user.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now they're out, like I said, on a water main break. There's a big hole.
Better not be Rush. Is it Rush?
No, it's Radnor, I believe. It is not Rush. So they're out in a water main break currently, right? Oftentimes you don't know what you're going to be running into in terms of underground utilities. So it is not uncommon to have your water main below a gas line between electric lines. So they can't get in there with their heavy backhoe equipment and physically dig it. They can get down to a certain level, but then there becomes a point that they cannot physically dig, and they basically think of like this enormous vacuum that's going down and it's just sucking up the ground around it. So it gives them the ability to get work around those utilities safely, get their trenching and shoring in, and get the repair completed. That's one type of operation. Or in the case of the water main B boxes that they were doing, it's a way to actually excavate something with having minimal disturbance. So it's about a tube about this size. It can literally go over the B boxes and suck out that area to determine what we needed for those water services. It also has a jetting component. So if you ever heard of someone saying they have a sewer backup or a storm sewer blocked, it's got think of like a house rotter, if you've ever had your sewer rotted out in your house, but it's huge and it flushes water and then it pulls back all the debris and allows any blockages within our system to be cleaned out.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board? Trustee Lanisa?
Yes, there's a huge discrepancy on the trade-in values. Can you explain why that goes from 50 to 150,000?
The 150 is from our current vendor, and we have been on them significantly due to our problems.
Other questions or comments from the board? Trustee Domke?
Back in the day, when you first bought this in 2017, you thought it was a 12-year life. So that had a lot to do with buying it, because you can, spread out that cost and say, well, it only costs this much per year.
Sure.
Well, now you're saying that the normal now is going to be, we're going to buy another one of these in 8 years or 10.
I think we need to look at decreasing the amount. I don't know if it's 8, I don't know what 10, what the sweet spot is, but we definitely need to look at it. Tom in the finance department does a really good job of what the vehicle costs are and planning out every year. They're putting aside money. So for example, this vehicle is already fully funded. So moving forward, Tom and his team will be looking at doing the same thing, putting aside what we think the future cost for that is.
So, and then another question would be, like, there's a term called duty cycle, but in this case, like, how many days of the year do you use this, roughly? And then would you share it with another community that would use it another bunch of days and use up more often to, I mean, it's sitting dormant for a long time if we're lucky, right? And then once in a while, it's like anything else, it's an emergency usage vehicle, and now we have no emergency and it sits there. And then you got one sitting in Glendale Heights and Schaumburg and Bloomingdale. And so why does one village buy these very expensive things when they could be amortized over a bunch of different villages?
Yeah, so I want to clarify a few things. So what I was speaking to originally were emergency situations. We have day-to-day things that we do with that equipment. Is it used every single day? No. When you get into the winter time, it gets a little more dicey because you don't want that equipment freezing up, but we will use it during emergency situations. But our day-to-day maintenance is jetting. Some of our sanitary sewers have grease problems. We jet that to make sure that we don't have blockages because that can easily block. We use it to clean storm sewers. There's a lot of things that are used on a day-to-day basis, but the other things I mentioned were emergency situations. Speaking to units, most communities have their own. There are some communities that actually have 2 units. Hanover Park being one of them that we have utilized it before, they have 2. It would be challenging, I think, based on our current use to flip with somebody unless it's a smaller community that's not utilizing it that frequently.
Something to think about is this cost,
Mhm.
this shorter lifespan.
Sure.
Other questions on the board? Is there a direction to move forward on one of the recommendations or?
Yes, I'd move forward with one.
All right. Trustee Forsythe?
I'd move forward with one also.
Trustee Domke?
I wish we could get more of a trade-in value. But that's not negotiable with these guys, right?
No, we've tried.
Can't pit one against the other and say, these guys would give us this, why can't you? No? I mean, I would always want to go to the lower price one, but you did make a good case for why not. I'll still stick with maybe going for the price rather than the top.
Okay, so that would be number 4. Is that correct?
That would, I mean, that would be my propensity right now.
Okay, nope, that's fine. Trying to get a pulse. Trustee Trejo?
Just a real quick question. You said that for 1 and 2, it's an extra 6,500? Is that?
Each of them you'd add 6,500. So the total cost for number 1 would be 605, approximately 606,000, and number 2 would be about 592,000.
Yeah, I would prefer option 4, given like the 25% premium between the two.
All right, Trustee Lanisa?
Fortunately, I think I'm looking at the cost of what we're up against in other items, and for over $100,000 difference, I'm probably a number 4 as well.
All right, Trustee Perkowski?
Number 1.
Number 1. What's the biggest difference between the Western Star and the Freightliner besides availability?
It's just a chassis. It's a chassis difference.
Okay. I would prefer, since we have a 3-3, I would break the tie towards number 2, which there's not enough votes for. So is that something that the others are amenable to? I feel like I understand the time delay and whatnot on that end, but I think we can save some money on that, and that gives us an ability to switch vendors and still have some cost savings there. I know it's not significant. The point is well made by the other trustees, but is that something that Trustee Delapenna, Forsythe, and Bierkowski you're okay with?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I will break the tie in favor of option 2 then, in that case. So,
Thank you very
well,
much.
I mean, an unofficial tie, but
Just, because the equipment isn't guaranteed to be here until potentially April, we may continue to incur costs, emergency repairs. We may have to rent a replacement if our current one continues to cause troubles, just making it full disclosure that we may incur more cost than the cost difference between 1 and 2, depending on availability, and the price may change.
Well, the price may change and the trade-in value, that's the biggest unknown right now, and I don't want to put that out there like that, but we literally finished this job and put it to the side. And the ultimate concern is we are like 1 break away from more significant, like the recent thing we had happen was so significant. I was like, oh God, what's going to happen now? So that's the difference. So $15,000 I know is funding, but it could go into rental or it could go into repairing the unit.
I think either way, we're going to the same vendor, correct?
Correct.
So I think between now and the next meeting when the board authorizes, let's see if we can get them to sharpen their pencil at all on that. I know you guys have done a lot of due diligence on it, but let's go back and have a second conversation with them and just say like, this is where we're at and what can we do to make a deal happen?
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, trustee Trejo.
I would say if we can't get those costs down for whatever reason, I would be supportive of option 3 since it's available now, given the delta between the necessity of renting potentially. And obviously the cost is a little bit more than 4, but that one's available now as well. So I don't know if there's a stance among people just to move to 3 right now, just given that or not.
Trustee Lanisa.
Mentioned that in the wintertime, the truck doesn't get used that often unless it's a true emergency, right? So what harm is that going to cause to you to not have that vehicle available for that time frame while you're waiting to the first quarter of?
So right now, it's used in emergencies. So like I mentioned, they're out there right now. Those emergencies happen all winter long. So if there is a sewer backup, weather doesn't stop sewer backups. And quite frankly, in the wintertime, breaks increase due to the weather. So we're utilizing those during both of those scenarios. In the scenario where we're borrowing equipment, we'd have to borrow that equipment, call in that town overnight, hope that they can get it to us quickly, especially in a backup situation. I mean, you want to have the quickest response time that you can when someone's home is backing up. So those are the scenarios in which they're being utilized. And then the other thing is leading up to that is that there's all this maintenance that we have deferred because it's been so unreliable and we had to get these 69 services done for this upcoming project. We have deferred our proactive maintenance that we typically do because we're delicately trying to keep this piece of equipment running. I will tell you, like I gave you the times that it was down. We consistently 1 to 2 times per week have that thing in the shop with our mechanics trying to repair it, which is taking away time from the mechanics getting other vehicles repaired and quite frankly, trying to get the equipment. So yes, it's used less in the winter, but what it's used for is our most critical operations.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments on the group?
I think then that's the case. Should we reconsider 1? If we need it relatively sooner rather than later.
I think either way, we're gonna have to go back to the vendors. So I think we have an opportunity. We've got board feedback. We can't take action on it tonight. So I think the staff understands where we're at and we got to go back to the vendor and we'll have more information for the next board to consider. So trustee Trejo.
Is anyone open to 3 right now, since that's immediate in stock? I mean, I'd be willing to go to 3. It's a little bit more money, but it's like you get the equipment now, you don't have to rent anything, and we get delivery of it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just gonna say rental too. There's a nice advantage to rental too. You don't have to repair a rental. You're gonna be
Believe so.
guaranteed to get a unit that works.
I
Okay?
believe so.
And I know it's per se it's expensive, but over a couple months to bridge the gap, rental could carry the day and it wouldn't be as much money as buying one of these at this higher price. I think that that's it. I just say rental's not a tragedy and Bloomingdale will help you out, especially if they know you ordered one. You're not using them.
Well, I'd say unless, because I would never sacrifice our equipment to another community if we had a need first. So that's the only thing I will say as a caveat there. And so far rentals we have not been able to get a rental when we needed it, correct?
The last time we needed the rental, it wasn't available. Doesn't mean it won't be available in the future, but when we needed it last time, it wasn't available.
One other question can I ask?
Sure.
The $63,000 repair, how much of that was this year?
I don't know that I can answer that question, but I know.
Is it getting more
Well,
and
the
more as
majority,
time
it's,
goes by?
yes,
Was it
it's-
really bad early on?
It's increasing in costs the longer we go.
Makes sense.
So to trustee Trejo point about option 3, is there any biters on that one? And I know my biggest concern is just the safety features and it sounds like
Positive displacement.
thank you.
Yep.
Positive displacement versus fan is more temperamental and that may incur additional, more expensive costs for us. That's my only concern on that end, but.
And our current unit is a positive displacement.
In its own, okay.
Yep.
So other thoughts from the group on option 3?
Would go with option 3 as Lee suggested, if that's what you gotta have it right now, kind of thing.
I'd stay at 1 or 2.
All right, so we're kind of split on that. Maybe let's continue to work with,
Thunder.
okay, they're very similar names. Vector, and see if there's any opportunity to bring that down, and then it might not be bad just to just get some additional information from Brown, so that way when we bring this back for board action, we'll be prepared to make a final decision, so.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, good conversation. That's why old business goes so quick, because we do the work in new business. Is there any additional public comment tonight? With the record show none. Is there any other business for discussion only from the board tonight? Record show none. Next, I'd like to entertain a motion to convene executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining. No final action will be taken, and we'll be adjourning from executive session. Is there a motion?
Second.
Could we have a roll, please?
Trustee Delapenna.
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Trustee Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Hi.